Hey, this is Steve Laskovich of Luminous Works with a tip just in time for St. Patrick's Day. We're going to make that Celtic knot pattern. I rather like that one. So we're going to make that in Adobe Illustrator using two new features. One's called Repeat and the other's called Intertwine. Gee, I can't imagine what that would do, but it's going to be fun. There are some limitations to each, and unfortunately they kind of bite us a little bit. So I've tried to work around them. And you'll see maybe in the course of this just what we did. So on the right there is what I'm aiming for. On the left is where I'm starting. I noticed like this roundish piece on the one on the right there is kind of an ellipse chopped up a little bit. And it has an aspect ratio, a shape of 4:3. So I made this ellipse 4 inches wide and 3 inches high because who wants to do the arithmetic? Right. I do. Anyway, so I'm going to start with this one ellipse, and I want 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it looks like 4 there. And then we'll do more after that. So I'm going to go to Object, down to Repeat. Yeah, that's the new thing. And I want to array them in a radial fashion. Unfortunately, it makes way, way too many. And there are ways to adjust how many there are here. There's 4. That isn't too bad. But there are some other options I want to be able to adjust a little more carefully than this thing lets me, the interface. It doesn't constrain by holding the shift key very well, so I can mess up the orientation too easily. So I'm going to do this a bit more methodically. Back to Object, back down to Repeat, and here to the Options. So here I can get a little remote control where I can change how many repeats I have, but also the radius of the whole thing. So I'm going to pull them in, as you can see on the right there, until they're just about touching. Just a little bitty bit there. Just a wee bit. Even closer than that. Oh yeah, that's lovely. Fantastic. And I'm going to make sure that this sucker is right in the middle of its artboard here. I'll align it there. I could have used the align panel down there. It's aligning to artboard right now, so smack in the middle. Well, I'm going to copy that particular repeat, and I'm going to use paste in front, so I have the copy of it right on top of itself. Can't see it, that's because they look identical right now. And I'm also going to check my layers panel here, just so you can see, yep, there are 2 of them now, radial repeat, and the one on top is selected. If I wanted to, I could change the stroke color a little bit so we can have it look a little different, a little more green. That seems appropriate. I want this one to be bigger and to make this section, these slightly larger radius repeats, also 45 degrees to the first one. So first I'll just put my cursor into the corner of the bounding box here, start rotating, hold down Shift. At least I can constrain that rotation. So now it's 45 degrees different. Back to Object, back down to Repeat, and to the Options again, so I can increase that radius rather more dramatically. I'm going to hit the up arrow here while holding the Shift key, so it goes 10 points at a time. I've got my ruler set to points right now, so I can really be fine-tuned if I want. I mean, look how fast this is coming out. This is amazing. All right. So now I think I have 8 ellipses, but I don't. I actually have 2 radial repeats. Again, looking at that layers panel, I can see radial repeat, radial repeat. It doesn't even have a little disclosure triangle, so I can get in there. So what I need to do is turn this into what it looks like, which is 8 ellipses. And the way we make a fancy thing into the simple thing it looks like is with the command called expand. And unfortunately, Repeat doesn't have its own dedicated version of that. It has a release, which would give me 2 ellipses, which is not enough. So I'm going to hit expand. And it asks me if I want to expand the fills. There are no fills, just the objects. And now that gives me 2 groups, 2 groups of groups, way too many groups. So I'm just going to use Control-Shift-G if you're on Windows, Command-Shift-G on a Mac a few times. And boom, now we really have 8 ellipses. And I have a look and feel I want to give to them. I made a graphic style of that, but just to let you know what that does, keep an eye on that appearance panel. I'm going to use this style here called starting. And what this style has going for it is 2 strokes on each ellipse. Whoa, 2. One is 40 points across. The other is 26 points across. That seems, oh yeah, I guess that's right. That's about 6 inches. Okay, 6 points difference. Okay, on each side. And I can turn one off, turn it back on. Thank you. Turn the other off, turn it back on. Pretty nifty. The way you create additional strokes, or fills for that matter, is down at the bottom of the appearance panel. Add new stroke. So I did, and it duplicated the first one, made a second one. I saved that as a graphic style. There's another one there, fini, and you'll see why that becomes necessary a little later. Let me move this out of the way. It's a little bit in my way right now. So what we're going to do is probably just make this a little easier. I'm going to zoom in on that one artboard for the moment. And I'm also, these things are in the way again. Ah, you creeps. Move those out of the way. Align panel, go to hell. Something like that. And I'm also going to view this in outline mode. Whoa, that's bright. Control Y if you're on Windows, Command Y on a Mac, so we can just see the skeletons. Also, I found the next part works slightly more reliably in this mode. It's still not 100% reliable. What is this next step? Is trimming away what I don't want. I'm going to use the scissors tool, accessed with the letter C, which stands for skizzer. And I'm going to start moving around. I know I want to get rid of the bulbous part of the more higher radius ellipses here, the ones that are farther out. And if I get my cursor right over that section right there, it says intersect, implying that it's going to put a snip right where those two paths intersect. And guess what? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Let's get close and see. Hey, it did it. It's right on the money. Half the time, it ain't. I don't know why. And I'll come over here, do it again. Yeah, maybe that worked. Maybe it didn't. Hey, that one worked too. I'm going to keep going. Intersect. Intersect. You're getting bored, aren't you? I'm coming along here. Intersect. I'm only clicking when I see the word intersect to improve my odds. And if any of them are off, I guess I'll find out eventually. Nope, looks like most of them are on. Shocking. When I built the first one, not so much. So that's pretty good. Let me get rid of the excess. So I'm going to select the outer bits. Get rid of that, and that. And so you can see what this looks like. Now it's starting to look like this. That's in preview mode. How do I go back and forth? Command Y or Control Y? Don't ask me why, but there it is. Now, I'm going to stay in outline mode a little bit longer, and I'm going to put those 4 other ellipses, the intact ones, on top. That'll also improve the likelihood of success. So I'll select those 4 outer ellipses, Command-Shift right bracket, Control-Shift right bracket on Windows to bring to front, just to improve my odds, as I say. Back to the skizzer, and where it says intersect. What shape is it cutting? Good, that's the right one. You didn't hear that, did you? No, no one heard my phone, because that would be rude if my phone made any noise during this recording. And I'm going to keep going here. Intersect, intersect. Oh, almost said path there, which would have been God knows where. And intersect, intersect. And I'm going to get rid of those little extra bits. See what's happening? Helps if I aim correctly before shooting. Does that not look promising? Does that not look not quite. It's getting better though, isn't it? Now the thing is, where those corners are, where those paths intersect, I need to do a couple things here. Let me select all of those. What I can do is have at least the green parts extend themselves. Well, see where they are? They're meeting at each other's halfway point. It's halfway across the stroke. There's a way I can round off those ends exactly a half stroke weight, which is exactly what I need, a radius of half a stroke weight, by going to that one stroke, that top stroke, and giving it rounded caps. Ho ho, that's looking good. Now, if you can imagine, I'm going to be putting this on a background of the color of that outer stroke. You can see that there on the right. So if I can only pull back the other stroke so it's not close to those intersections, then I won't have this little funkiness right here. So I'm going to go to the other stroke, this one, highlight this one, and look at its options. And I can make it dashed. Now, I've already set this. No, I have not. That's right. I have a style to do this. But I've thought about this, and I realized I don't want an initial dash at the beginning. I want that initial dash to be 0. And then I want a big enough gap to get past there. So what is this, like 40 points across? Yeah. So maybe I'll go with like 60 gap. Of course, now everything disappears because all I have now is no dash and a big gap. And then a big, long, how big does it let me go? 1,000? Yes. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's coming along. And then another 60-point gap. So on either side of the dash, I have a gap. So now the dash knows where it should begin and end because I'm trying to keep it symmetrical about the corners. So now it's keeping its distance from those corners. So if I put this on that color background, which I think I can arrange pretty swiftly, there's my layers. Whoops, there's my layers panel where I can introduce such a thing. And we are, that close, that close. Only thing we're short on is where those intersections should go over or under. They're not quite right. For example, if you were looking right here, you see it goes over, that means it should go under here, and so on. Let me move this over. In fact, let me zoom out a little bit so we can see what I've got going over here. And I'll move these aside. In fact, you know what? I'm going to get rid of those for the moment because we're that close. And so with all of those little lines selected, we're going to use the intertwine feature now. So that means object menu, down to intertwine, make. And then with our cursor, we can just move from spot to spot where it's not right. Now that one's right. That piece goes over, it's supposed to go over, but then it's supposed to go under. So if I want to flip which one's on top, I just click at that intersection and they swap. So now it goes under, then over, under, over. This way, under, over, under, up. It's supposed to go over. Now it does. That means this one's supposed to go under. And guess what? That means that one goes over, under, over, under, over, under, over. A lot of that. Then it cuts under, then over, under, over. It gets sickening to say that. And then over here, there's a swap. And it does the right thing there and there. Is it done? Oh my God, I think it's done. So between the intertwine feature and outer stroke that matches the backdrop, so it looks like it's cutting out, we've got ourselves a pretty compelling Celtic knot to celebrate the day. Well, sláinte and have fun. To learn more, head on over to luminousworks.com where you can sign up for a class both online and in person. Love to see you.